In part 2 of our series on how to choose articles correctly for your nouns, we're going to talk about the idea of generalness, which is good to be aware of when choosing articles. There are two different but related terms that we need to be clear on when we think about how nouns are being used: general and generic. In grammar, although they look the same, there is a difference between nouns that are being used generally and nouns that are being used generically. A general noun is used when we are talking about one specific example or instance of a thing or things from many choices. For example, the sentence, "I own a dog," refers to the actual dog that I own, one dog from all the dogs in the world. The rule on how to choose articles we have been talking about in part 1 in this series of videos is for nouns used generally. But we can also use nouns generically. A generic noun is used when we talk about the thing as a broad category or type. For example, we could say, "A dog makes a good pet." Here, we are not talking about one particular dog. Instead, we are using the noun dog as a type or category of animal that makes a good pet. Therefore, it is generic. So both general and generic nouns can be used in their singular or plural, countable or uncountable forms, and can take all three articles. However, there are some differences in the way we choose articles for nouns used generically compared to the basic 5-step rule for general nouns that we looked at in part 1. If our noun is being used generically and is referring to the thing as a broad category or class of thing, the choice of article is more flexible. We are no longer referring to unknown or known, undefined or defined instances of specific things in the same way as we do with general nouns. This means we can choose whichever article sounds best for the context we are creating. For example, if we use the noun elephant generically as a label for a category of large mammals with trunks, we can say, "An elephant is a large mammal with a trunk," or "Elephants are large mammals with trunks," or "The elephant is a large mammal with a trunk." Each of these sentences is interchangeable and means the same thing. What can be a bit confusing for ESL learners is that the last example uses the definite article "the," but is talking about a generic category of animals called elephant and therefore is not following our standard 5-step article rule, which would suggest that it is a defined, specific, known or already mentioned elephant. What this means is that when using generic nouns as the name or a label for a type or category of thing, rather than for a particular instance of the thing, we can choose to use articles quite flexibly. But when using nouns generically to emphasize the uniqueness of a category of things, especially with the names of species of animals or plants, parts of the body, inventions and devices, we tend to use the definite article "the." For example, what came first, the chicken or the egg? We're not talking about a particular or defined individual chicken or egg, but rather we are using these generic nouns as labels for a unique type of bird called chicken and a unique class of thing they produce called egg. So we could say, "The elephant lives in Africa and India." "The fir tree has become synonymous with Christmas." "The motorcar was invented after the steam engine, but before the aeroplane." "The refrigerator, the microwave, the computer and the mobile phone have transformed modern life in ways our ancestors could not have imagined. The heart pumps blood throughout the body. In all these examples, we are using the nouns generically. They are being used as the name for a unique category or type of thing rather than for the thing itself. Okay, that's it. Let's review what we have just covered. Nouns can be used either generally or generically. When we use a noun generally, it means we're talking about undefined things or people that might belong to a certain group, but we're not pointing to one specific defined thing or person. When we use a noun generically, it means the noun becomes a label for the group of things or people thought of as a single category or class. The distinction between nouns used generally and nouns used generically can be subtle and not so easy to identify. However, when we choose articles for a noun, knowing if we want it to be thought of generally or generically can make a difference. Nouns used generally will follow the 5-step approach we looked at in part 1. But nouns used generically can use any article that fits well in the context we are creating. Additionally, when we want to emphasize the uniqueness of a particular category of things, particularly with species of creatures and plants, inventions, devices, and parts of the body, we tend to use the definite article the. That's it. In our next video, we will look at how we choose articles for gerunds and verbal nouns, and in what way they might differ from our standard 5-step approach I gave you in the first video of this series on how to master correct choice for your articles every time. See you in the next one. Bye.